Romans 1:18 through 3:20 is a discussion about how God's wrath is revealed against the ungodliness and unrighteousness of humanity. When we get to the end of this first section of Paul's letter to the Romans, we simply discover that no matter what excuses we might make, we are still held accountable. That God is still angry at ungodliness and unrighteousness. There's a turn, though, in the letter, almost like it's written as a thesis, as a doctoral thesis, or obviously not as long as a doctoral thesis would be today, but a very organized laying out of the gospel. And when we get to verse 21 of chapter 3, there is a turn, a new idea that's presented that stands in contrast to the wrath of God. And so we read at the beginning of this second section, which starts with verse 21 of chapter 3, that now, and it says but now, so we're giving that contrast with the contrasting conjunction but now, the righteousness of God is made manifest or revealed. And so we want to then look at this word righteousness because it's a critical word for us to understand when we look at God's message of salvation for us. We looked last week at how God's wrath is revealed against our unrighteousness. And so we're going to put God in contrast to that. He is heavily contrasted to us. And now instead of his wrath being revealed, we're going to see his righteousness revealed. And then as we go through other words in our vocabulary list, we're going to see how that impacts us and what difference it makes for us. But we need to understand this word righteousness. In its original context, it is a word that's used in the court of law to declare someone not guilty. We saw that the root of both our word righteousness here and our word from last time, unrighteousness, is the word justice. And generally speaking, the word justice isn't either positive or negative. It's a neutral word. It simply means that what is right needs to be done, but in that context, if the lawbreaker is punished, that's justice. If the falsely accused is acquitted, that's justice. So it works on both sides, and it's really a neutral term, not either positive or negative, whereas the word unrighteousness is the negative side of justice, that it is the wrong that is being done and the wrong that is being rightly punished. In contrast to that, God's righteousness is made known to us. And so we see that in God's righteousness, in this character trait of God's, we find what is true and good and holy. We find that God is not like us, that everything that he does is good and right. Everything that he proclaims is good and right. And that if he were to be placed into the court of law, we would find that the declaration would be that he is innocent, that he is not guilty of wrongdoing. We can't say that about ourselves. We are guilty of wrongdoing, and that's why we begin this whole conversation with God's wrath being revealed to us because we violate his standard of what is right. And so he is the standard setter. And we begin this second part of Paul's letter with this declaration that God's righteousness is revealed to us, that the fact that God is true and God is right, that what God decrees is good and right, is declared to us, and that we stand in opposition to that, and that that's a problem. And so what we're going to find then as we continue walking through these definitions is the solution to this problem, that God's righteousness can become ours, not by what we do, but as a gift that He gives to us. And so we're going to see a number of terms that are used to help us understand how this gift is given and what that means, so that we don't have to suffer the consequences of God's wrath, but instead can be in fellowship with God as He extends to us His righteousness. That He is not demanding something of us, but that we will find He is gifting to us what we need to be in fellowship with Him. So, righteousness. It is God's character of being right, God's character of being true, God's character of being good, and that everything that is right and good and true originates from Him. So thank you for being a part of this conversation with me. I'm interested in your comments. Leave them in the comment section below. And I'll link the previous conversations in our vocabulary list below. You can also find them in the playlist called God Words. God bless you.